Welcome to Technically Foul, a sports podcast where we take our sports a little more than personal, but not too over the top, where we get flagrant about it. It's been an unbelievable week of playing tournament games, other seeding games, first round predictions, and other game one of the first round of the NBA playoffs. But let's start off with what went down in the play-in tournament. And I like how John wrote here eulogies for the losing teams, which is pretty sad considering just where Charlotte would have been if they had Hayward healthy and LaMelo healthy for the majority of the season. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's start talking about the Charlotte Hornets and where exactly they'll go here from the offseason and just your overall takeaways from them getting smacked by the Pacers, because during that 9-10 seeding game, the Pacers just completely looked like that they wanted to be the one to be in the playoffs, and the Hornets were they just didn't have enough manpower.
Yeah, it was sad to see, especially because you can kind of tell LaMelo, and he said after the game that his wrist still wasn't right. Like he wasn't able to bend it the way he wanted to still. And then, like you said, without Hayward, they just weren't the same team. And we saw that they lost by like 30 points. And that's the Pacers team who was also missing guys. Like they didn't have Miles Turner, Karis LeVert didn't play because of I think COVID protocols. So they lost to a shorthanded Pacers team. And I think looking at the regular season, they wouldn't have lost that badly, I don't think. And I think in terms of what they can do in the offseason, they should probably just stand pat because I think with that team, they're relatively young. So I think a lot of their guys are going to be taking steps forward during the offseason, whether it's LaMelo looking to make that second year jump. Miles Bridges, I think, still has a lot to improve on, despite how well he's been playing and his clear athleticism and ability to make crazy dunks. Terry Rozier too. He had a great season. I think he's going to come back even better. So for them, I think it's just really maybe trying to add a big man because I mean Cody Zeller he's solid, but that's not the guy who you probably want on your team. I'm surprised they didn't get more involved in like the Vucevic deal when that was happening, but that was really like low key. But I think for the most part, keep the core the same, add a big man, and see where you go from there.
What do you think about the Hayward situation? Because it feels like over the past 4 years, he's kind of been the X factor on if he's healthy, we're at least like a mid playoff team, depending on if he's with the Celtics or now with the Hornets, they would just be like a fringe playoff team. This dude keeps getting injured. Should the Hornets try to like flip him for something if anybody wants those damaged goods, or just kind of invest in him and be like, okay, let's just bank and gamble on him staying healthy for the majority of the course of the season?
I think they should just live with him, to be honest. Like you have LaMelo Ball, who's going to be the franchise centerpiece going forward. I think it's good for them to have another solid running mate who could potentially be an all-star. And to have those two going into the future is only good for them. Like next year they could have two all-stars in both those guys. And he does always get injured, but I feel like injuries just I mean his injuries have just been so unlucky. It seems like so random last year when he broke his hand, when he broke his ankle. I don't know how many years ago that was, maybe like 2017, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
that he broke his ankle on the Celtics. These injuries are just bad luck. And when he's healthy, he's really good. I mean, he was an all-star in the Western Conference, which is really hard because there's so many good elite wing players in the West. So I would keep him personally.
Yeah, and if you were to look at like his basketball reference and his stats over the past season, his first season with the Hornets was pretty similar to his All-Star season with the Jazz. And like you said, him being a All-Star over in the West is I feel like that's like the peak Gordon Hayward resume. It was like, oh, he was an All-Star in the West. That's saying like a lot. And now that the fact that he's with the Hornets and he was able to kind of replicate a season like that is just it just goes to show that he's able to kind of tap in back into that All-Star season of his.
Yeah, and I thought he should have made it this year when we did our like all-star picks. I had him because I thought he was having a really great season compared to like some of the other guys who made it. And yeah, I think next year he could bounce back and be an all-star. It's just all luck with those injuries. Like you can take a bad spill and you're out for a while, but I think Charlotte has to believe in him going forward. Plus, they don't have very many other options. You could try to flip him, but you're not going to get equal return for his value and for what he's doing for you.
What do you think is this team's ceiling next season? Are they like a sixth seed, fifth seed at the very best, or they'll just consistently be, yeah, probably playing tournament because the East is kind of up for grabs sometimes.
No, I think they could be as high as a 4 seed. Like I could see them being better than Atlanta, the New York Knicks. I could see them being better than all those guys because we don't know how good LaMelo can get in his second season. He could really make a jump. Um, I mean, he can be better than Trae Young because of his height, I mean, he can shoot well, he can drive to the rim. He's a really great playmaker. And then on top of that, just the pieces they have, man. Like I really like the pieces they have around him and Terry Rozier, Mikal Bridges, or not Mikal, Miles Bridges, and what's his name? The point guard Devontae Graham too. Him off the bench, I think, is a really good piece for them too. Because last year, I mean, he was pretty much the guy. He should have won Most Improved last year. And then this year, he had a little bit of a slow start, but having him off the bench is a really good piece for them too.
So how do you want to talk about the next play-in tournaments? Do you still want to cover the Laker Warrior one, and then we'll talk about the Warriors Grizzlies one?
Yeah, let's talk about Lakers Warriors just because I think that just the anticipation of that game and everyone was so excited for that. I think it had the biggest rating of a non-finals game since 2019. Like that was a pretty big game, especially to start the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
For it to be like one of the first games, and you could say arguably, the best game in play-in history,
Yeah, because we only have like 2 years of a sample size to deal with. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like anything. That's not some crazy take for
That
us to
one or
say.
Warriors Grizzlies is like up there. But that
Yeah.
game was crazy. I don't know if you watched it, but when LeBron went down because he got poked in the eye and he was down for like 5 minutes, the memes have come out of there, bro. They've been elite.
Dude, he was very petty after that shot, and when
Oh my God, dude.
Rachel
The three
Nichols,
rims.
yeah, when Rachel Nichols was interviewing him because he hit that shot over Steph with like 50 seconds left, and when during the interview he was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, no big deal. I just saw three rims, so just shot at the middle one when Draymond poked me in the eye."
I hate
And
how he does that so much. Like, why? Just say like you made a big time shot and like obviously you did. That was a tough shot. It was super deep. But to say, yeah, I couldn't even see. I couldn't see right. I was seeing three of everything. Like, why?
he just likes to complain like that, and that's just in his personality, which is fine. I've been used to it after the past decade and a half of him just whining. But what did you think about that very last possession? Because we had LeBron shooting that crazy three over Steph when initially he wanted to pass it under the rim, get like a nice basket up in the post, and he gets the three with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And everybody's like, okay, LeBron shot that on Curry. Curry's going to get the final shot too. And during their last possession, after not calling a timeout, Curry gets double teamed near half court, passes it over to Draymond. Draymond doesn't even look like he wants to shoot it. It looks like he wants to pass it out to like Wiggins on the wing or so. And he goes in for a floater and he completely airballs it. And like that can't be the possession that you want, especially against the defending champs. I know the Lakers were the 7th seed, but I feel like in that situation you got to be more prepared, and it's a high stakes. It's high stakes. Curry has this unbelievable MVP-esque season, and he should be the one getting that possession in the final seconds.
Yeah, I think that floater that was in the Grizzlies game, right? I think it was like right before overtime. Draymond missed the floater in the Grizzlies game. But I'm telling you, after that game, I was so depressed because I was looking forward to seeing Steph against the Jazz. And like I'm a Steph fan. He's probably one of my favorite players.
Oh
So
no, you're right.
watching,
I'm mixing up the games. There's been so
yeah,
many games to cover. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, honestly. And then but to me, I think the mistake was on Steve Kerr because he actually didn't call a timeout before that play. And I know what he was thinking. He wanted them to double Steph, so it would be 4-on-5. And for Draymond to make the right decision, or 4-on-3, and Draymond to make the right decision. He took a floater. I'm pretty sure he got blocked by Tillman, and he just like it wasn't close, which was unfortunate. But to me, Steve Kerr should have called that timeout. On top of that, there was a shot with like a minute left. The shot clock was nowhere near like expiring, and Wiggins shot a three and hit the other side of the backboard, which
Oh,
was like
the playoff P.
he
Yeah,
sold so hard.
yeah.
He also missed like a wide open layup over John Morant when he could have just dunked it. He missed a layup. He was dropping passes. And then there was also a key possession where Jordan Poole, I think it was in overtime, he just kind of lost the ball out of bounds out of nowhere. Like their turnovers killed them in the end. And if that was because of fatigue, who knows? Like Steph had to play the whole second half in overtime. They didn't sit him once. So
Right.
I know he was gassed, but he made like one really terrible pass, but for the most part he wasn't making key turnovers. It was more like the other guys. And man, it was just sad to watch that game because no one else on the court wanted to make plays. You could tell they were just looking for Steph, and
Hmm.
Dylan Brooks was on him. Like he was not getting away. And even when he did get a good shot, like he wasn't hitting. He was just like a little off. But it was just sad because all the other players seemed afraid of the moment until like the very end. Jordan Poole actually started shooting and he hit a three. He made like an and one layup. He got the foul call on the 3-pointer where he kicked his leg out and he made 3 free throws. So I think that's a really good sign for them. Like Jordan Poole coming off the bench next year is going to be, I think he has like sixth man potential with Clay starting
Hmm.
and back. I think they're going to be in good position next year. Assuming Clay comes back looking somewhat normal, it should be
Yes,
fun to watch.
especially considering the how much recovery you need from a torn ACL. But
Yeah, and an
yeah,
Achilles.
yeah, that too. And then yeah, I think the end of the Lakers Warriors game, they were trying to get in the Steph, but the ball just got stolen. And then yeah, the like what you were saying, the wide left floater by Draymond was at the end of the Grizzly game. And then to seal that Grizzlies Warriors game was Ja Morant going full on Derrick Rose crossover spin move. And I was like, man, he really did show up for the moment. And everybody else in the Warriors was just looking for Steph to make a play. And Steph got them some good looks. Like Wiggins or Poole would be able to get like an open three after Steph would drive it into the lane. But side of the backboard or just rimming out. And it just wasn't falling for the Warriors that night.
And not only that, but John Morant was big time that whole game. The
Mm-hmm.
Warriors' game plan was to let him shoot threes, and he knocked down a career high 5 threes, which for me, I was rooting for the Warriors, and I was like losing my mind. Like he's actually hitting his three nows when he's
Yeah.
shooting like 30% on the season.
Mm-hmm. He's
Um,
not a good 3-point shooter at all.
yeah, he's not good. He needs to work on that. But in that game, I mean, he stepped up, and it's in its own right that's exciting to watch too because I like John Morant. He's super athletic. He's super fun to watch, and for him to step up in that big of a moment, I think was obviously big for the Grizzlies. They're gonna get their first playoff experience now. Those young Grizzlies. And I mean, they took game one against Utah. We'll see how much longer they can push it and make a run. But overall, I think it was pretty big for the Grizzlies. But something I wanted to ask you too, just thinking about like those final possessions. This might be an obvious question, but would you rather Steph have taken the double team and try to shoot like a step back from 30 feet, or that possession they got with Draymond taking the floater and being 4-on-3?
Yeah, I mean, basketball wise, you would want the better, higher percentage shot. And it's funny because normally in a situation, be like, yeah, it's the floater on a mismatched possession, but it's so funny thinking about how Steph after this historic MVP season, MVP-esque season, that yeah, that would be the higher percentage shot for him to shoot like a literal step back from damn near half court just past the 3-point line. I feel like the Warriors would like to live and die by a possession like that. And if you just look in retrospect about how Draymond's season has been, he isn't the same as like I think peak Draymond was 2016 Game 7. This dude put up a 30-point triple double. He has not looked the same like ever since then necessarily. Like he just doesn't have the offensive tool that he used to have. He used to be pretty solid from three, like shooting I think above 37% from beyond the arc. This season and this past season just goes to show that yeah, man, you really do thrive when you have like solid teammates around, which is no real knock on his character or on his game. But yeah, to answer your question, I would definitely live with Curry amassing a bomb from like a 30-footer.
Yeah, I wish they would have like given him that opportunity, but maybe he was just gassed and he didn't want to take it. With Draymond though, yeah, it's just sad to see like how quickly his offensive game deteriorated
Mm-hmm.
because I mean he used to average like 12, 13 points and now it feels like he would have 2, 8, and 10 like every game. He was only scoring like 2 points and there's just a lack of aggression there. He doesn't really drive and when he does, now I feel like he's so not used to it anymore that he's missing the layup.
Yeah.
And obviously he can't shoot threes. His floaters go in sometimes, but that's just something I guess they're gonna have to live with. I do wonder if it's gonna get better once he gets better teammates, but I don't know. I feel like if
No.
anything, once he has better teammates, he's gonna keep looking to feed them and not necessarily look to score.
Yeah, no, that's definitely possible. And I don't even know if this is something that I just keep imagining or just so happen to notice. I feel like in past years when he like pump fakes from beyond the arc, he's looking to score and actually drive to the basket. But over the course of this season, and it's just like some little twitch I think he has, he doesn't like look to score at the basket right away. He's always like looking to pass to an open teammate. And I feel like that hesitation has made all the more difference in him scoring 2 points or him scoring like 12 points because his defense is still there. It's still going to be solid. Like his help defense, his overall perimeter defense, his rebounding is pretty solid in terms of like boxing out, but his offense just isn't there. And in a season where you don't have Clay and you have Andrew Wiggins, oh sweet Jesus Christ, he's not going to do anything. You're going to need as much offense as you're going to have to help Steph out.
Yeah, which is why the whole time I was just thinking, man, I wish Clay was healthy. Like I miss watching Clay so much. He was just so fun to watch the way he runs around and knocks down shots. So hopefully next season he'll be healthy. He'll be somewhat normal. I don't know like if he's gonna have minutes restrictions. I'm assuming he will, but hopefully by the end of the season he'll be like 75% of himself and they won't be able to triple team Steph like that. Like
Yeah.
they just won't be able to do that anymore.
I know you wanted to talk about if it was a good idea with the play-in tournament and like Steph being left on the outside looking in. I know you wanted to dive more into that.
Yeah, I just like I remember like during that game, the Grizzlies Warriors game, I sent you a tweet about someone who tweeted this out, basically questioning whether it was a good idea for ratings because without Steph, how many people are really gonna watch the Grizzlies Jazz game? And we were talking about whether we watched it before or watched the first game before this call. So I mean, I didn't. I think if Steph
I didn't,
if if
just
Steph
being
and the
honest.
Warriors were playing the Jazz, I probably would have made more of an effort to watch that game
Yeah, yeah.
because and the Grizzlies won. So I mean it stings that much more for me who was rooting for Steph because you could see a world in which the Warriors somehow upset the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've talked about it before with the pick and roll. How were they gonna guard? How was Utah gonna guard that with Rudy Gobert on the floor and kind of how that was gonna pan out? Uh, it would have been an interesting series, and I mean we'll talk about this later, but I don't have the Grizzlies winning. Um, and overall, I just think the ratings are not going to be what they could have been. You're missing out on one of the faces of the league. You know, him
Right.
and LeBron have carried the league for like the past 5 years, 6 years, and
Pretty
just not
much.
having him there sucks, especially with the year he's had. Um, Kobe-esque season, Kobe 2006, and for him not to make the playoffs is kind of tough, especially like I wonder how the league felt about it. Like there were people saying they were rooting for the Warriors because obviously it'd be better ratings and stuff, but yeah, it's just tough.
I think it's an interesting narrative to paint about if it's a good idea that Steph is on the outside looking in. However, I also think it's a dangerous narrative of, man, if we could have fixed the Warriors Grizzly game or the Warriors Laker game to put it in their favor, we would have done it for better ratings. So on some level, it's like, the justice balances out. Like, yeah, you wanted the franchise player, the better ratings, but just the better team won. And also, if Clay was here, the Warriors wouldn't be in a play-in tournament if everybody were to stay healthy. I mean, look at fucking Utah. They somehow got to the number 1 seed, even with Mitchell out a decent amount of weeks, and they just also had depth. So anything could have happened if Clay were to stay healthy, not get injured. And I just feel like they're in that universe, the Warriors wouldn't have been in the play-in tournament. They would have at least been like a 4th or 5th seed, barring any injuries. But I feel like everybody complains about the play-in tournament when they're in the play-in tournament. And if you're like seeds 1 through 6, you're like, yeah, this is a great idea. It makes it more competitive. But if you're that 7 through 10 seed, you're like, whoever came up with this idea should be fired. This is terrible. We should go back to the old rules. And I don't know. I personally like it. I think it's a great idea. And I don't mind that, yeah, the better team won. Because if the league really wanted, more competitive, more competition, then they should be happy that the better team won as opposed to, better ratings, more or less.
So do you think this year's was a success despite like the Warriors falling out from the 8th seed? I
I
mean,
think,
yeah, go ahead.
I do think it's a success. I think seeing Ja Morant like get playoff time is really interesting. People like familiarity. So when they see like the Grizzlies, this non like attractive market of a team, stomp on the Warriors, you're like, what is this? Basketball sucks. The NBA is shit because the NBA isn't rigged or meant to cater towards superstars, which it normally does for the most part. And it's just the underdog story that people didn't want. They wanted the underdog story of Curry and the Warriors, like, I don't know, upsetting someone in the first round, maybe.
Yeah, I would say I think it was a success too, just from like the interest it garnered too, especially with that Lakers Warriors matchup. That was a rare
Absolutely.
circumstance. Like I don't think most seasons that it's gonna be the two faces of the league playing each other in the playing tournament, but
Just to be seeded in the playoffs. Yeah.
yeah. And also like you said, with the Grizzlies Warriors game, it was fun to see, like I said, the face of the league come up against or go up against like a younger star trying to find his place and kind of have
Hmm.
his first playoff moments. Like that's
Hmm.
fun. And just the anticipation of watching that game and knowing the stakes of it too. Like it's a one game knockout and knowing that you lose, you're going home. And like the Warriors, they did have an advantage. Like they got two games and they won both, or they lost both, and the Grizzlies won both. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's how it goes sometimes, especially in these kinds of tournaments.
Oh, towards the end of the regular season, right?
Yeah, well, like in the play-in, they had two chances. They went up against the Lakers. They went up
Oh, that's
against the
what you meant.
Grizzlies, lost both. The
Yeah.
Grizzlies beat the Spurs, beat the Warriors. Like that's just how it goes in the tournament. But it's funny because
I think the Grizzlies came back against the Spurs too. They were down by like double digits in that game.
yeah, I mean they've been playing well. They're peaking at the right time, I think, especially
Hmm.
with like Jaryd Jackson coming back. Even though he got benched at the end of the Warriors game, but just having him there, he could be their top scorer pretty much every night or any night. And to me, it was just funny because there was like a play-in before the play-in where the Warriors played the Grizzlies for the 8th seed. I don't know if you remember that. That was when Steph pulled up his shirt and stuff when they won. He did like a Baron
Oh,
Davis tribute.
the step back three. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, so that was just kind of like another fun aspect of it. There were like three playing games for them. But yeah, I would say it was a success just from like the attention it garnered and the excitement around it, even though, unfortunately Steph was on the outside this year.
No, absolutely. And then Tatum dropped 50 against
Yeah,
the Wizards.
that's crazy. I think that he was like, is he the second Celtics player to score 50 in the playoff game?
Some stat like that. I'm sure it'll go, oh, Larry Bird was the first one to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he
Yeah, it
went
was
17 of
crazy.
17 from the free throw line, which is funny because when I looked at the stat line, when I was watching part of the game, I'm like, this should be like 35 to 40 points alone. It felt like he was getting a lot of calls. And I was like, all right, this is fine, I guess, for now. But, you know, it just, I just feel like it's a microcosm of what is it going to take for the Celtics to win. And it's for Tatum to really go off, which is in stark contrast to what happened against the Nets. We'll talk about that in a bit. But, you know, it was nice seeing him go off, and then now they're up against Brooklyn, and it's just like, all right, do your best.
Yeah, it's
Good
not
luck.
gonna be that easy anymore.
No, not at all.
But I was surprised the Celtics actually won that game. I thought the Wizards were gonna win.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the Wizards just looked like they had all the momentum going into it, but
the,
Tatum had a
the
big
fact that
night.
the Wizards were like almost dead last in the East, and now they've been able to claw their way back. I mean, it's not a success story that people always want to talk about because we love to hate on Westbrook's game, or I do. You do too. And now that we're seeing them up against Philly, it's like, all right, where's the triple doubles at? Where's the stat padding? But you know, they were pretty solid against the Sixers,
Yeah,
and I
they
feel like
were.
they were on the verge of coming back. Westbrook stepped out of bounds. Maybe it didn't look like his heel was stepping out of bounds, but I wasn't there. I just saw the cameras.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah. Oh, I guess
But
I guess we can get into first round predictions right now too.
Yeah, let's do it. So my prediction for that series is I think I'm gonna go Philly in five.
Yeah, me too.
I just feel like, I mean, obviously they have more talent, more all-star caliber guys. Ben Simmons doesn't even have to score in double digits for them to win, which is
Yeah.
crazy. I think he had like 6 points.
Hmm.
Did he have like 15 assists, 14 rebounds or something crazy like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he could do what he does best, and that's just probably guard Bradley Beal and assert his will on the defensive end while Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid do most of the scoring. I think Tobias had 35 points.
Harris went off. I
Yeah,
think that
which is
was playoff career high, I want to say.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not something you expect.
No.
And like the Wizards kept it close despite that. And I think that looks good for them. But overall, I just think Philly's talent, Philly's defense is going to make the difference on like a more explosive offensive team, maybe in the Wizards.
Hmm.
But I feel like they're going to get shut down defensively.
Yeah. Plus, if you were to like look at the minutes, it basically seems like Beal and Westbrook have to play like 45 minutes, 39 minutes. I mean, I get it. It's the playoffs and you want your superstars to play, but there's nothing sustainable about having your two only like main stars play absolutely every minute of basketball just to go up against like Tobias Harris. You don't want to leave Curry open. Embiid's going to be eating anyways, and Simmons is just surrounded by shooters. So it's just not it's not sustainable for the Wizards. I do expect them to win one game also, but yeah, it's a gentleman's sweep for Philly, in my opinion too.
On top of that, it's like, can you rely on Westbrook to come through in playoff games too?
No,
Yeah,
no,
so
no, you can't.
at most, you're relying on Bradley Beal. Maybe Westbrook will show up. Maybe he won't. You never know. It's either he's gonna have a really good game or he's gonna be terrible. Like there's really no in between for him. So yeah, Philly was the easy choice.
I genuinely also feel like Westbrook, like I want him on the floor for like the first 3.5 quarters. But when it comes to clutch, like last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, just something in his mind, like a couple screws get loose, and he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna make this pass. I'm gonna make this layup," and it turns into like a fast break for the other team's possession, or it just results in a turnover. Like I've seen this unfurled too many times for me to be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be invested in Westbrook to make a clutch play," and then he doesn't. So it's just been the theme, it's just been the narrative, and I feel like it's just gonna hold true for the rest of this series also. And it's a shame because I had high expectations for the Wizards. The fact that, like I was saying earlier, they came back from damn near the dead last in the standings, and now they're up against Philly is a success story in and of itself. But it's not gonna win them the series or anything.
Yeah, I think heading into the season too, I had them in the like 8 to play in range, and then once they were like last in the league, I was like, they're not making it. Like, there's
Yeah,
no way.
yeah.
And then for them to do that, I think is a win in itself. And I think that might have convinced Bradley Beal that maybe this is worth sticking around for. Like, you don't see him as unhappy on the bench anymore. I don't think he's going to ask for a trade or anything like that. I think he's going to be there for a while now.
You think the Wizards can like improve their seeding selection next season if they make a couple of moves?
Yeah, I think honestly with this team,
We're
they
already
have
talking about like they
already.
got eliminated.
I mean, they're going to. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I think next year they definitely can. I think like just the start of the season was so terrible for them, and that's why they ended up where they were. They got decimated by COVID, like we've talked
Yeah.
about before. They had to shut down their team for like a whole week and a half or something. They weren't practicing, they weren't seeing each other. They were all isolating. So I think in a regular season, they're gonna look more like they have in the latter half of this season, where I think they went like 16-7
Hmm.
in their last like 20 something games. So I would bet on them being a higher seed next year.
All right. Nets, Celtics. You have the Celtics winning one or two?
One. What about you?
I have the Celtics winning one.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say two.
No, it's rough. I mean, like, yeah, Nets won the first game, 104-93. The fact that Brooklyn's big three, okay, the Nets scored 104 points. Kyrie, KD, and Harden together scored 82 points. What the fuck? There's no way you're gonna get past that. It was kind of incredible considering that they didn't even go off for like 120 points. So Celtics defensively did fairly well. Robert Williams played out of his mind in 23 minutes. He had 9 blocks and then 11 points, which is insane to see. Tatum didn't even play that well either, but Smart played pretty well. I think he had like 17 points on 3 of 5 from 3 or something like that. But it's just too much firepower. Like, I can't stress that enough that the Nets' big three had 82 points. The rest of the team had 22. That's just going to be the winning formula, and that's just how it's going to be for the rest of the playoffs.
And I think on ESPN, they said scored or assisted on like 102 points out of their 104.
Oh, yeah.
So
they're involved.
I mean,
they're mad involved. Yeah.
You could say that. But
for the most part, they're involved.
They're going to be touching the ball like pretty much every possession. They, like you said, they're stacked. And Boston's missing Jaylen Brown. He would have been a key piece in just like defending one of those guys. Like him, Tatum, Marcus Smart probably would have drawn those assignments. And I like the Smart against Kyrie matchup.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's not so much, but I mean, with the length Tatum has, with the length Jaylen Brown has, and just like his strength too, because he's super strong, I think that would have been a good matchup on Harden, because Harden's so like thick. And he definitely gains velocity when he's running to the rim. So I think Brown on him would have been a good matchup. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how this goes. At this point, it's just like, can Jason Tatum steal one?
Mm-hmm.
That's really like the main question. And to do that, he's going to have to go off again like he did in the playing game.
Yeah, no, I would definitely prefer to see Jaylen Brown on Harden as opposed to Evan Fournier just like putting his hands up and Harden to step back on him. I mean, the same thing would happen if it was Brown, but this sounds like kind of more than obvious, but make their team actually try to defend you. Like, Fournier's not going to be that much of a threat on offense, but Jaylen Brown will. So on some sort of level, like, yeah, Harden or KD is going to be more gassed in terms of actually having to defend a player that can create his own shot, as opposed to Fournier. He's kind of more predictable. He's more of like a spot up shooter. I'll occasionally cut to the basket type of player. And I don't think if Brown was in the series that it necessarily would have like swung it in the Celtics momentum. But I feel like, Celtics losing in 6 would have been like a more competitive, realistic situation, as opposed to them just either getting swept or getting gentlemen swept by this really stacked Brooklyn Nets squad.
Yeah, I think it would have added a game, him being there. But did you see when KD fell on the fast break and he like landed on his shoulder?
Was that the first half?
I don't even know, but that fall was like terrible. It was like all over Twitter.
Every time he's on the floor, it's scary for him to like just seeing him like slowly get up. I'm like, damn, bro, you okay?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is like he was only on the floor for like 4 seconds and then he got helped up. But that fall was so bad. Like if that was LeBron, it would have been game, man. Like he would have been on the floor for like 5 minutes. It would have been a flagrant.
My head.
Yeah, but KD just popped back up. That was such a crazy fall. Like I would have died. He straight up landed on his shoulder. Like,
yeah,
terrible. Just all bad.
I know. Yeah, barring any injuries, and Nets would look solid. But every time he hits the deck and he like slowly gets up, I don't know if it's just because he's fucking 7 feet tall, so him like getting up takes a lot more seconds than like the average human being. But it's always like I'm always like wincing. Like it looks like he's hobbled. It looks like he's like slowly getting up. It's kind of the same thing when AD goes down, or he hits the deck and he stands up and you're like, fuck, are you injured? Is this
stressful time?
Is this gonna swing momentum right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about Bucks versus Heat?
Man, this one is so tough, especially with the first game going down to the wire. And it's like obviously Miami won last year, but I'm gonna make the same mistake. We'll see if it's a mistake that I did last year and go with Milwaukee in 6. I just feel like from last season, Miami is not the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And Milwaukee's gotten better with the addition of Drew Holiday and subtraction of Eric Bledsoe. I think that's like a major plus for them. So, I mean, just looking at that, I'm going to go with Milwaukee.
I have Heat in 7. It's fun. Okay, well, first, before I get into it, how much impact like Oladipo not being there, do you think it made a significant impact on this Heat squad?
Well, I think it sucks because they traded Avery Bradley, and
Hmm.
Avery Bradley is a good defensive player. He's really good at pressuring the ball, whether it's full court or half court. So that's the main part that sucks. Like they lost that guy and they don't have Oladipo.
Yeah.
But I think Oladipo was still kind of figuring out how he was gonna fit with the team. If he would have not gotten injured, I think it's a totally different story because then you have three all-star caliber guys, maybe four if you count Goran Dragic and how he plays coming off the bench because they're starting
Hmm.
Kendrick Nunn now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it definitely would have helped to have him, but I mean, at this point, you can't really. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. He's out, and they're gonna have to make do, and they did in that first game. They only lost by 2.
Yeah. I mean, Milwaukee had 17 turnovers, but so did the Heat. And the Heat actually broke their franchise record for threes in a playoff game with 20 because Duncan and both Goran were shooting solid from beyond the arc. It's just, those final seconds, I think Butler tied it at the horn to end regulation. And then Chris Middleton won it for them in overtime. So it was kind of a sloppy game for both teams. There's a ton of turnovers, but I don't know. I want to go with Heat in 7. Did I say Heat in 7 or did I say Heat in 6?
You said he in 7.
Yeah, I'll go with Heat in 7. I think it's very possible for them to kind of try and shut down Giannis again, throwing Adebayo, throwing fucking Butler at him, and I feel like it's kind of a sustainable game plan for them.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis, there's a clear game plan for how to stop him. That's like the thing, and you wonder if he's gonna be able to break through against that.
Hmm.
But at least, I mean, I think Chris Middleton has improved pretty much every year. The fact that he was able to knock down that game winner, it also didn't seem like they struggled with who to go to. It seems like Chris Middleton is going to be the guy down the stretch. And it makes sense because Giannis, I mean, he can't create a jumper for himself. Or if he
Yeah,
can, it's not going to go in. Like the Heat will live with that. So I think Middleton's confidence is pretty high. Drew Holiday, what he's able to do on both sides of the floor, too. I just, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami won because they did it last year. Jimmy
right.
Butler always like takes his game up a notch in the playoffs. Bam Adebayo is really good. They have a lot of pieces. I just feel like they're missing something from last year. And you wonder if like the bubble played a part in that too. Like it seemed like they really locked in the bubble and for some reason they were just like super focused. Jimmy had his coffee company going. Maybe that helped out. I don't know. The way it
Shameless
probably helped
plugs
with
and stuff.
camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, man. But I just feel like it's time for Milwaukee, man. Like it's about time. As LeBron once said, it's about damn time.
Oh my god. No, I mean that's a good point that you raise about Drew and then Chris being the main dude going down the stretch, and it's having like a clear plan. Like, yeah, this guy who can actually create his own shot, whether it's driving to the basket or pulling up for a mid range, as opposed to Giannis, who's like, yo, I'm gonna drive and I might spin for the layup, but you're gonna know that I'm spinning, so you're gonna throw like 3 dudes at me, and if then I'm just gonna like kick it out. So I think yeah, Middleton has definitely improved each and every year. That's why he's an all-star consistently. Um, the Drew factor is I like an underrated factor. I feel like that he's going to make all the more difference in this series, and he's ultimately the X factor from what's so different about Milwaukee like last year compared to this year. Because like what you're saying, the subtraction of Eric Bledsoe, who just seemingly disappears in the playoffs. It's not like he's even there in the regular season because
Yeah, he's
consistently
not
either.
great. He's just not
No,
great.
it's just not great. So yeah, I would trust Drew handling the ball and just being like really pesky on defense, like we know his reputation to be for guarding the other teams as point guards.
Yeah, and having someone like him to guard Dragic too, I think is going to be huge because I mean, Dragic is a huge part of the Heat's offense with his pick and roll with Bam, the way he throws up lobs or floaters, like he could decide at the last moment. So I think having Drew on him is going to be huge, considering like how big of a piece that Dragic has been for the Heat this, or he should be a big piece like this postseason as he was last season.
Right, right. No, absolutely. Who do you have with the Knicks versus Hawks matchup? I
I
feel
would
like
say this one and Portland, Denver is like actually the toughest to
Yeah,
decide.
I was gonna say the same thing. This one's kind of up in the air for me. I'm not
Yeah,
really
I'm
sure.
I mean, I'm just gonna go Knicks in 7 because good offense versus good defense. I'm gonna take good defense in the playoffs. I might be proven wrong because I mean in the first game, Trae Young dropped 32. He had
Yeah.
a game-winning floater, but that was without Julius Randle like showing up. So hopefully if Julius Randle shows up, it'll make some difference. But I'm gonna take the Knicks just because I trust Tom Thibodeau, and that's pretty much it. And I like Randle as a player. I like D Rose. I feel like the Atlanta has obviously more deep offensive players.
Hmm.
Like they have more talent, but I'm gonna go with the Knicks. I just trust Tibbs, man. I trust his defense.
Yeah, I think I'm swaying towards Knicks in 7 also. Normally, I would be like, well, who's like the best player on, during this playoff matchup? And normally in the playoffs, it's like the all-star, the superstar is going to be making all the more difference, which Trae Young did. And I think he's a solid star and he made that game-winning floater, put up 32 points. But, Alec Burks had 27. Randall had 15 points and 12 rebounds. So if you just, put like his usual points per game at like 25 or 27 in this game, then Atlanta is probably going to lose by, single digits. So, yeah, I mean, everything you touched up on, Tibbs' defensive schematics, um, Atlanta just being more of like a, yeah, well, we're not really known for our defense. We're known for like outscoring opponents. And I think in the playoffs, you got to get a stop, and New York definitely has that game plan.
And for the Knicks to be that close to winning with Julius Randle playing that poorly,
Yeah.
I think it just goes to show once he plays well and the rest of the pieces are fitting in, they should win, hopefully by like 10 points whenever they win. But I think it's gonna be a back and forth series just because neither team is all that consistent. Like there's
Yeah.
a reason they were in the 4-5 seed, and it's because they're way up and down. Like especially the Hawks offensively, shooting can come and go.
Hmm.
So that's a big part of it too. Like if they knock down a bunch of threes, if they're going off, they're probably gonna win because good offense beats great defense at times. Like when they're super hot, like it's just that's what's gonna happen. But I'm gonna bet my money on the great defense of the Knicks.
Yeah. This series is going to be an absolute dogfight. Just seeing Trae Young hit that floater and like talk back to the crowd because I guess MSG was
Silence
yelling
them.
like
Who's like,
"fuck you." Yeah, like the "fuck you" chants were going, and Trae Young taking everything personally, which like rightfully so. Like that's just what he's been known for because he got traded for Luca. So ever since then, he's like, no, I have to get better. So the fact that like he displays this chip on his shoulder, that might be enough to help swing momentum, but it's gonna go to 7 games. It's gonna be an absolute dogfight of a series.
yeah,
If
and it
I'm
was
wrong, I'm
also
gonna be sad.
same. It was also just fun to see fans in the building again though, and just have that interaction, even though actually especially because Trey like was silencing them and just seeing that heated moment.
Yeah,
Like it's so much fun to have fans back in the building.
no, definitely. Do you remember? I don't know if you watched the March Madness game. I think it was the UCLA like Final Four or Elite Eight buzzer beater. And I don't even remember this dude's name. I just remember Johnny Juzang, but that wasn't the guy who made the buzzer beater. But whoever made the three like stood up on the podium. He's like, "This is my house. This is my arena." And you just see like the cardboard cutouts of the fans in the arena. And it was cool that Trey wasn't just shushing some random piece of cardboard this time. It was like an actual person.
Or shushing no one.
Yeah,
He's already
really.
like silent and he's like
He's like, yeah, keep it this way. But no, definitely seeing fans in MSG. I doubt they're at full capacity, but even still, this is their first playoff game in about 8 years. So regardless of the fraction of how many fans are in the stadium, it's gonna sound like a full arena just because everybody's that more excited, and obviously everybody's more excited that we're able to come in person now and not just have to be a fan via Zoom Premium.
yeah, and
But I
it's
think
gonna be more and more fun as like because it looks like most teams are gonna have more and more fans in the arena. So it's
mhm,
only gonna get more and more fun with these moments that players have interacting with them. Because I'm sure they missed like interacting with the fans too.
Oh, I'm sure. And speaking of fans, I think Utah and whatever Florida team has always had fans consistently throughout the start of the regular season. So I think we're gonna head out west now. We got the Jazz versus the Grizzlies. There's actually a Bleacher Report notification just a few minutes ago
I
about
saw that.
Mitchell like deepening the tensions about him not wanting to have been sat out for game one. And the Grizzlies won 112 to 109. Mitchell sat out. Ja Morant played. Not it wasn't even Ja that was the one that went off. It was let me actually pull it up in a bit. But yeah, what do you think about this game? Do you think it's gonna be Jazz in 5 and they just happened to drop the first game, or do you think the Grizzlies can actually make something of it?
I'm gonna go Jazz in 6 just because Mitchell's coming back from an ankle injury. Who knows if he's gonna play next game? He probably will because he's venting his frustrations to the media.
Right.
I think they'll miss one more game and they'll win 4.
Yeah, I have Jazz in 5. I feel like they dropped the first game. The fact that Mitchell sat out and they were still able to keep it within like a 3-pointer goes to show how deep and competitive that team is.
All right, Suns Lakers.
Lakers in 6. Lakers in 6.
Yeah, I was originally gonna go Lakers in 5, but that's tough. I think I'm gonna go Lakers in 6 too, just because I mean the Suns are good, man. Like just watching them, the way they play offensively, and then they were playing pretty well defensively too.
Booker and Ayton carried.
I love Booker.
They played very well. My goodness.
Booker is so nice.
I didn't get to see the entire thing, but yeah, AD only had 13 points. Was he not looking for a shot as much or what?
AD's been so on and off, like his mental aggression, or not his mental, but like his aggression level, it varies from game to game, and it's just so weird. I don't know what happened to him from last season to this season, but he's not always locked in. But that's like he's gonna be locked in. Whenever he has a bad game, he bounces back. So I'm not concerned at all.
Lakers in 6. I remember seeing like this Suns game, like, oh my God, they're gonna be the defending champs. It's like, bro, don't judge a series after one game.
Yeah.
I would have said Lakers in 6 regardless of seeing game one unfold anyways either. So
yeah, and Lakers lost like all 3 game ones last year in the Western Conference playoffs. So
all right, Nuggets Blazers.
This is the tough one. I'm gonna go Nuggets in 7 though. I believe in Jokic more than I believe in Dame and CJ. Like I just do. I don't know why. Probably because I've seen Dame come up short so many times, and Jokic is the MVP. He doesn't need to score to be the best player on the floor, and I like that about him. Like he could just feed MPJ and Aaron Gordon all game, and they could win off that. So I'm gonna go Nuggets in 7.
I wanted to say Blazers too. Blazers also, or Blazers in contrast, but I think I'm gonna go Nuggets too, just because. Yeah, CJ and Dame, they're always going to combine for damn near 60. So will Jokic and whoever. I don't know how consistently I can like hold MPJ to like a certain expectation, but the fact that like MPJ and Aaron Gordon are factors and the Blazers don't really have that third or fourth piece to like consistently be scoring. Yeah, I think it'll be Nuggets in 7 also. These teams always love to play against each other in the playoffs, and it's always a dogfight.
Yeah, I remember that series like a long time ago too when they went to 7. But that was with Jamal Murray there. That was without MPJ. Like so much has changed since then.
No, absolutely.
All right, Clippers, Mavs. This one is like
I love Luka
so much. I love Luka so much that I'm gonna go Clippers in 7.
I want Mavs in 7. I don't think it'll happen, but I want it to happen. I want to see this Clipper team like implode. I think it'll be nuts.
Yeah, I also just think that like so much of the Mavs is going to rely on their role players. Like they need their role players to come through because we know what Luka's going to give them.
Oh yeah.
So
Luka had like 32.
Yeah, 32, 10, and 11 or something. So we know what we're going to get from Luka. It's just a matter of if the other guys are going to come through. If everyone can stay healthy too. I think Kleba has like a sore Achilles or something, and he's the one guarding Kawhi. Last year, KP went out and like the series changed. So
that was in game 1, I think, also.
Yeah, so they just need like their players to stay healthy, and they need their guys to come through. And I think it'll be a really fun series.
I think that just sums up about all of it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks again for listening to Technically Follow Sport Podcast. I'm Jaryd Boncarius. That's Jonathan Fernandez. Catch us on Spotify. Catch us on Apple Podcasts. Shout out Kathleen. Thank you for listening to this. Happy 9-year anniversary, and we'll catch you guys next time.